Welcome to the Realizations Podcast. I'm Andrea Gordon, your host, and I'm excited to explore the world of real estate with you. In a world where perceptions often overshadow reality, Realizations seeks to redefine what it means to be a realtor. Join me as we peel back the layers of the industry, uncovering inspiring stories and celebrating the good in real estate. Whether you're a homeowner, a fellow realtor, or simply curious, this podcast is for you. Welcome to Realizations, where perceptions meet reality. Let's dive right in. I'm here today with my friend and colleague, Bryan Smith. I'm so excited to have him on the show. He is an absolute rock star in the universe of real estate. And I'll tell you a funny anecdote about how I met him. When you're a top producing realtor, lots and lots of companies will come after you. And I was recruited by Side. It didn't happen to be the right venture for me to go with because I'm really happy where I am at Compass. However, I think it's always really good for everybody who's in real estate to always listen to whatever anybody has to say about their companies and their business, because it gives you an idea of what's out there. And it also gives you a chance to see what might happen for you. And also, if somebody brings you an offer, you can take it back to your own office and say to your manager or your broker, hey, this is what these people were offering me. Can you match it? I think that's always a good thing for people to do. Advocate for yourself. So in any case, Side came a call and they bring a kind of bigger dog and pony show when you're a top producer. And so they brought Bryan to me in a conversation about possibly joining Side. And I'll leave Bryan to talk to you about Side and all of that. But I just thought he was fantastic. I loved talking to him. I thought he was brilliant, exciting. When somebody's this successful in business, I want to understand how they tick and what caused them to do what they do. And so even though I didn't go to Side, I wanted to talk to him further. So I contacted the recruiter who had been recruiting me and asked for Bryan's contact information, and came back to Bryan with a proposal about something that we're working on together. So you never know what life's going to lead you to. And I'm so happy that life led me to Bryan. And with that, I want to say hello.
Hello, Andrea. And first of all, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. It's quite an honor to be on the podcast here, given who you are and everything you do and how well you do it. You're just quality all the way. And like you said, I'm really glad that, I don't know if you call it fate, the universe, or whatever brought us together, but it's certainly been powerful in my life. So thank you.
Oh, well, so just to get us started, can you give us a brief history of your life in business and how you got to where you are? Because it's pretty incredible. And I think all the viewers would like to know.
Okay. Yeah. How do you bring a summary to well over 25, 30 years, but I'll try to do it here really quick. So I was born and raised in Northern California, which is basically Silicon Valley, which means that I've always been around technology companies, technology environments, the VC environment, you name it. That's just what I grew up in. I was born here, raised here, went to college here, and just never left. First job was here in technology. So I've been in, I'll say tech 25 plus years. I've been in PropTech, or real estate tech, as it's otherwise known, for just over 20 years. And I got involved with a company that most of your audience will probably be familiar with, which is called LoopNet. Back in 2003, when I joined LoopNet. LoopNet was a startup company at that time. It was actually my second young high growth company. It was a company that was struggling to grow a little bit, and they were looking for someone to help them take it forward and lead their sales motion into market. They had failed a few other times. So anyway, by way of connection, I ended up at LoopNet, got the opportunity, and was there for well over 10 years as head of sales, heading up sales for LoopNet. We had a tremendous run from '03 to '06. We ended up taking the company public from '06 to about 2012. CoStar came in and made us an offer that the board couldn't refuse and ended up acquiring us. So that was a very nice run. I left LoopNet as president of LoopNet. And where did I go from there? Oh, I went to a company called BoomTown, which is a
Everybody's going to be familiar with LoopNet. As for those of you who don't know, is the commercial. It's not an MLS, but it's like Zillow for commercial properties, lots, different sorts of property than residential. And BoomTown, everybody knows because we've all used it at one point or another.
That is exactly right. Yes, LoopNet is, thank you. It's a marketplace, right, for commercial that really didn't exist before, right? Commercial was very much a Rolodex, keep it tight to your network. And when we offered a marketplace to commercial, it was a tough challenge because people love to keep things private. But ultimately, what it did was it leveled the playing field, right, for smaller commercial brokers. And that was something that excited me. So again, very successful, still out there. If you're in commercial, you can't miss it. And then, yes, BoomTown, right? The CRM that is curated specifically for real estate. And I had a chance to meet Mr. Greer Allen of Charleston, South Carolina. He came this way. I think it was an Inman conference he was visiting. And he happened to hear that I wasn't really doing anything and called me to his hotel room. We had a great personal chat and connection. And next thing you know, I'm working for BoomTown. He was stating that they had reached a point of growth that they couldn't seem to break through, and they were looking for someone to help them take it to the next level. So went there to lead their sales motion once again and help grow that team. And that too was a very successful run. I think we tripled the business in the 3.5, 4 years that I was there. And then from BoomTown, I went on to Side, the tech-enabled brokerage platform, right? That was a very new concept in the way what brokerages had to offer agents. And more importantly, as Andrea was mentioning, it was specifically geared toward the upper 10% of any given market. So that was unique and different in making sure that they had a platform under them that would allow them to grow, scale their business, as well as give them an opportunity to have hang their own brand, really, right? And not be positioned under another brand. And that was attractive to a lot of agents. So help them grow and scale from our San Francisco market. Here was our birth market. By the time I left about a year ago now, we were in 18 different states, many different markets. Again, just a fantastic growth story and scale story. So again, always in prop tech, as you can see, I only mentioned 3 jobs over a 20-year span. So I tend to stay with these companies. And when you're leading sales, as I do, I think that's a little validation that you're good at what you do because sales talent turns over quite often,
kind of.
right? So no, I'm very proud of those stories. And, now we've moved on to the next phase of the career, which is with a company called Rocketly.ai. And that is a brand new technology that we're excited about as well that will also service the real estate industry.
That is so cool. And can you tell us a little bit about it and what it does specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. So Rocketly is a piece of technology that really is geared toward accelerating and optimizing the return on your marketing spend. So, for example, agents spend a lot of money each month to drive leads and opportunity to their website. However, the leads you capture are only going to be the leads that identify themselves, usually through a form fill, or maybe they'll pick up the phone or call you. But there are 92% of the visitors that don't fill out forms for one reason or another, but it doesn't mean that they don't have intent. They just aren't going the extra mile to fill out that form or to pick up the phone at that moment. So what Rocketly technology does is it says, okay, we are highly confident that we can get you at least 30%. We can identify at least 30% of the people that you would never otherwise see visit your website. We will then drop them into an AI-powered marketing system, and the AI-powered marketing system will market to them on the back end. And when they are ready to speak to an agent, we will deliver them up to you and your team. So if you think about that value, it's pretty powerful from the standpoint that you don't need to increase your marketing spend, just the same budget you're running today. We're going to find you at least 30% more opportunities for that same budget. And we are going to qualify a percentage of those opportunities through automation rather than you having an agent call on them to call qualify. As we know, agents love cold calling and prospecting. That's a joke, right? They don't like it at all.
We hate it.
We hate it, right? So through the technology, we can engage, we can identify, we can engage, we can distribute. And that is the essence of what Rocketly is all about. So the return on investment is extremely powerful. For all you really have to do to cover your cost of Rocketly is sell one transaction. If we can help you do one transaction over a 12-month period, you've paid for Rocketly. And we're pretty
Hmm.
confident we can get you much more than one transaction over the course of 12 months.
Wow. That's something I probably will want to try out for myself. One of the things that impresses me so much about you, there are people that are the initiators of a business, and then there are people that take it to the next level, which is actually in a lot of ways harder than having the initial idea. I know it sounds funny to say that, but certain people have a genius for understanding the market and taking something to the next place, and you're one of those people. What do you think your special sauce is? How do you do what you do?
Wow. I do. So you're right. I think most of my career has really been going from creation. Someone has an idea, they've created it, and then it's a blank canvas. How do we take this to market? How do we grow it? How do we scale it? How do we make it something much larger? And that's where I love to get in, working with the blank canvas. So I think for me, it really is about prioritizing everything that you could be doing, which is a challenge. I think that really hangs up a lot of people when they try to work from a blank canvas. There's so many different things you could be doing that prioritizing is the most critical thing you can do. What is the next important thing I need to be doing in order to move the needle? And if you lose sight of that, you get very distracted in a hurry. And, it becomes a lot more difficult to get to your destination in the time that you want to do it. So it's
Hmm.
prioritizing, number one. Number two, it's always about people, right? Making sure that you have competent people that are willing to go through the challenge with you, because anytime you're doing something new, it's just an incredible amount of obstacles. Every day you're putting out fires or being more reactionary to things and you are being proactive. And that takes a certain individual or set of individuals to want to go through that with you and keep the fight every day, as they say. But there's nothing more rewarding than being able to do that and taking that blank canvas and working with fantastic people and painting your version of Picasso.
So when you take on one of these roles and you create a working team, how do you go about doing that? Is somebody else helping you to find those people, or are you researching and finding people yourself? And what for you, how do you create a successful team?
Yeah, so that's certainly evolved over the years, right? That has just been a lot of bad mistakes, using the wrong people. But now I think I have a pretty good eye for the talent that is needed and understanding the various profiles and personal characteristics that make people excel in various roles. I'm really big on sports and sports teams, and I've coached a lot of youth sports, and you come to understand that, not all people are the same, not all people are motivated the same, but if they are inspired, motivated, and to have the determination, you usually can find a place for them to contribute to the team, right? And
Mhm.
it's that hustle and that will and that desire that I'm willing to teach a lot more than, say, someone coming in the door with the perfect resume, but believes that they're entitled to something and was
Mhm.
always, just wanting more instead of giving more, right? So
Yeah.
that's a big part of team building as well, is really choosing the right people and helping them find success in whatever it is, whatever role they're playing.
Now, when you are working with one of these companies that you've worked with, when you get to a point in the process, what is it that makes you want to move on to the next thing?
Change company to company.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it's been different reasons from different moves. The first one at LoopNet, fantastic run. My heart of hearts, I probably still wish the acquisition would have never taken place, but I understand why it did. It
Mhm.
was business. We built a very successful business and it became very attractive. And so that's what happened. But then what happens is when you get acquired, the culture that you've built over a period of time changes, right? And
Right.
so for me, culture is extremely important and a big part of where I find my fulfillment in doing what's
Mhm.
hard every day. And
Mhm.
that particular culture changed and it just wasn't for me. And that was okay. I'd run that race and it was time to move on. Not to say the co-star culture is bad at all.
No, it's
They
your
built,
personal feeling.
yeah, they built a phenomenal company over there with the culture that they have. So I'm not being disparaging to them at all. And then the other one was I departed because it was a little bit of internal politics,
Yep,
things that I'd
yep,
rather not get into,
of course.
that made it a little more challenging to do what I needed to do and take that company to the next level. And again, we had a great run. When it's time to bow out and not beat your head against the wall, then I just
Right.
do it, right? And I would, given that I still have all of those relationships in place with the founders or the CEOs, I think we went about it the right way at each time. It was time for me to move on. I think that's very important as well. And then my last one at Side, we, again, one market of San Francisco to many markets across 18 states in a 4.5 year period is pretty phenomenal growth and scale and success.
Hello.
But one of the things that can happen that I've learned over time too is that fast isn't always fast enough, right?
Right,
There's some people they want to go faster and faster.
right.
And, I'm a believer that you can lose control of the car if you try to do things too fast, too quickly.
Mhm.
And once you get a level of growth or success under you, then it's really more about modifying what you're doing, right? And finding incremental benefits, right? And incremental successes rather than taking a whole new direction and believing that's going to somehow accelerate, dropping a
Mhm.
new engine in the car, right? When
Right.
the current engine is running just fine. So that just becomes a different of agreements. And when you're in small, young startup companies, the culture is always changing. What is going to get you to the next phase of that growth is not going to be the same thought, mentality, strategy, personnel that's going to get you two phases ahead, right? And so you always have a lot of conversation, communication, dialogue, debate, conflict, and sometimes it just doesn't align when it's time to go to that next level. And again, it's okay, right? When it's time to
Right.
move on, it's time to move on. I wish the best for them and the best for me. So
The one of the reasons I asked you that question kind of pointedly is because my understanding as a realtor, I've been at 5 companies in my life as a realtor, and every single time for the viewing audience that I left a company, it was because I needed something new in terms of my own growth as a person and as a realtor. There was something that wasn't being provided at the place that I was at that I needed to move elsewhere to obtain, either just through a change in attitude on my own part or through just the tools and the possibilities offered by that new company. So it's interesting to hear somebody as successful as Bryan essentially saying the same thing. I see you as a business genius, and
thank you.
I really do. And what you do is one of the hardest things in the world. And the fact that you are able to sort of straddle the world of technology and real estate is very interesting to me. And a question I would have for you is, where do you think all of this is going? What do you think is going to happen next in real estate? You have your finger on the pulse of all this stuff because you literally are at the forefront of the technologies that we all end up using 3 and 4 years later. So
Yeah, well, before I answer that, I might ask you to repeat it because I'm getting old and I tend to forget. But I do want to double back on what you were speaking about is about needing new growth, new stretch. And a lot of my career was really just, again, it wasn't, I didn't have 12 jobs over the last 20 years. It was a handful of jobs. And it was me really leveraging what I had known and taking that into the next opportunity. And as
Mhm,
I got, to Side, I know this inside and out, like, let's go do this, right? And it just
mhm,
became, it was more of a, just putting everything I thought I knew to the test and not having quite the struggle that I had, say, when I was back at LoopNet, kind of just starting
mhm,
in the space, heading up sales. And then my transition to Rocket Lead was completely different. It was exactly more in the lines of what you were speaking of, which is it was time for something new. I had been
mhm,
there, done that, heading up sales for young startups and having our success. And so at Rocket Lead, I had the opportunity to take on the CEO position. Someone was kind enough to ask me to do that. And I thought, yeah, okay, that's stretch. That is something new
mhm.
that I would love to take on. And so it's currently my role right now. Still
I
about
love
team
it.
building and everything else, but yeah, that's why.
Congratulations. That's
Thank
awesome.
you. Thank you. So now to answer your question, where do I think this whole technology is going in real estate? First off, I'll say that it's endless. It doesn't have an endpoint. Technology will continue to evolve constantly. So It's kind of bracketed by time, I guess. If you're in Elon's mind, you're thinking 50 years out, right, of where things could be.
Right, right,
If you,
right.
right, just ultra visionary. From my seat, I tend to think of it in terms of as long as I'm in the game, where will it be? Where will it evolve to and continue to go? So that's if I bound that or bracket that by time, that's the way I think. So for me, it's really anyone's guess. But, I believe that technology in real estate is going to, gosh, I don't want to hurt
Just
anyone's
say,
feelings in your
speak,
audience, but
just speak freely. Just
yeah,
speak.
I think the role of brokerage will take on a whole new complexion
Hmm.
because traditional brokerage, even though they've done a good job of trying to embrace technology, they brought technology in when people weren't really sure of what it was. They just knew they kind of needed it. And if a brokerage had it, then
Hmm.
fantastic. Let me go plant myself there.
Hmm.
But what you find is that as people go through an adoption curve or learning curve around technology, very quickly you come to realize that one size does not fit all. And
Right,
brokerages have one tech stack that they offer
right,
everyone, right?
right.
And as agents mature around technology, embrace it, adopt it, they are going to find that, one tech stack is just not what they need ultimately. So I believe that the industry is going to go to a point where I think brokerage will simply be brokerage as a service, meaning just processing the transactions for compliance reasons and the files. I think better agents such as yourself at the top of the game, I don't think they get to the top of the game by themselves anymore. Like,
Hmm.
agents typically started out, they were solo, and you could rise to be a very prominent agent in real
Hmm.
estate. I think that will be a very, very, very tough road to hoe. It was already difficult, but I think it's going to become even more difficult because I think teams are
Hmm.
going to dominate more market share more
Hmm.
quickly thanks to
Hmm.
technology. And so if you're a solo agent just getting in the game, trying to fight that wave of technology and teams in your market will be very challenging, in my opinion.
Hmm.
So I think that if I'm a new agent, I think I would go to traditional brokerage, or it doesn't have to be, it could be boutique as well. But what I'm saying is, as a new agent, a lot of times, name recognition and brand and things like that can help you get started as you're trying to get your feet under you and all of that. But as you mature as an agent and you start to figure out, I no longer need the brokerage, I don't need the brand, people come to me for who I am, what I do, and how I do it,
Hmm.
then you start to realize that the economics, or I think people will start to realize that the economics of what they pay a brokerage in the terms of splits and being forced into a technology stack that them or their team really aren't using or leveraging, but they're paying for it, will go by the wayside. So I
Hmm.
think the industry will progress toward, I think the brokerage of the future is, like I said, a brokerage that is really just processing transactions
Hmm.
as a service for some fee. And more mature agents will start to realize that, you know what, that extra 10% I'm paying on my commissions, I can build my own tech stack for that cost or less. Therefore, the brokerage I need to be at is something that is a fixed fee brokerage or something like that, because the more mature agents are going to become more independent in what they use, how they use it, and what they spend it on. Right.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, not every agent is the same. Some agents are very amenable to tech, right? They like adopting tech. Other agents are like, I know I need it, but I really don't like to use
Hmm.
it if I don't
Hmm.
have to. And then if you think about the onboarding generation of agents coming into the market, not only are they going to adopt it and embrace it, they're going to expect it. And
Right,
so they're going to expect
right.
technology to be a huge part of how they grow in their careers, right? So I think there's an opportunity, like I said, to shift dollars away from commissions that are going to big brokerages and move those dollars more toward a curated solution for individual agents and build their business and teams around that, especially as they mature as agents. So that was a lot, but hopefully it made
No,
some
I think
sense.
it's utterly fascinating. And as you know, we've been under siege with this whole DOJ, NAR lawsuits and commission issues and all of that, high interest rates. It's been a rough year for everyone. And my question to somebody like you, who's kind of visionary in all of this stuff, because you see information on the page and turn it into reality. That's an amazing thing that you do. So my question to you about this is, where are we going? And, you didn't surprise me by what you said. I think that the trend is more and more towards that. But I also think that part of the problem is in how do we express our value as agents to the people that we serve? Because it's a tough road to hoe, especially if you're part of like a 22-person team or something, to individualize and to present yourself in such a way as irreplaceable. Because a lot of tech is seeming to say that realtors are replaceable. And of course, I'm not in that camp. I don't think you can replace the human quotient.
Yeah, neither am I. I'm not in that camp either. From everything I've seen, continue to see, I just don't believe that you can pull the agent out, because exactly what you were saying is you need to be able to express and explain the value, right, around what you do. And no technology is ever going to really be able to do that for you as effective as you can do it for you. And therefore, if I line up tech in front of a consumer and I put Andrea Gordon in front of a consumer, I'm going to pick Andrea Gordon all day, right? The tech is just not going to be able to relay that level of satisfaction, comfort, and security that you will be able to do, because what you're going to do is you're not going to come at it from a single viewpoint. You are going to read who's in front of you, what's important to them, and you're going to tailor your communication and service to that individual. Yeah. Technology will not be able to do that for a very, very, very long period of time. So,
although AI will get there, I have no doubt.
Well, I think AI will only get there when people start accepting the answers of AI as good enough.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think that is an absolutely interesting place to end this conversation. And I want to thank you so much for coming and being here with me today. You are someone I look up to and who inspires me so much. So thank you.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it.
All right.
Love spending time with you in any forum. So thank you.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Realizations Podcast. I hope our conversation has shed light on the true essence of real estate and the people behind it. As we wrap up, I want to extend my gratitude to our listeners for their support and engagement. Your feedback drives the heart of this podcast, and I look forward to continuing this journey with you. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing to the Realizations Podcast and leaving a review. Your support helps us reach more listeners and spread our message of positivity in the real estate industry. Until next time, remember to keep an open mind, embrace empathy, and always seek the good in every situation. I'm Andrea Gordon, signing off from Realizations. See you next time.